The house was dead silent when I walked in, just that note, taped to the fridge like an afterthought. I stared at it, reading it twice, 3 times. I'm out with my ex. That line, it stung, but the second part? So I'll let you experience what it's like to take care of others. That was personal. It wasn't just selfish. It was calculated. I took off my coat in slow silence. My hands weren't shaking. Not yet. But there was this cold clarity creeping in, something I hadn't felt in a while. The kind of thing you don't come back from. Then came the sound. A shuffle. A cane tap. Then a voice. Gravelly, dry, almost amused. Shall we begin? They won't be ready for this. There he was. My wife's grandfather. Walter. 85, retired intelligence officer, hidden behind a lifetime of gardening gloves and dusty war novels. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't forget he was even here. He stood in the doorway like he hadn't aged a day since the Cold War. He looked me square in the eye. And I nodded. Good, he said. Because I've been waiting years for this. The next 24 hours were a blur of questions, maps, and memories. Turns out, old Walter had a collection. Not of stamps. Not of coins. But data. He'd been documenting this family for decades. Conversations, locations, patterns. My wife's ex? Chad Delaney, corporate scum turned life coach, which is code for a broke charmer with a car lease he can't afford. Walter knew him. Knew where he lived. Where he used to live. Where he went when he didn't want to be seen. My wife? She'd made a habit of talks. Not just now. There'd been others. Walter poured me a glass of scotch. No words. Just a slow, silent toast. By day 3, we had a plan. We didn't scream. We didn't fight. We didn't confront. We just built. See, she thought leaving me alone with an old man would break me. But she didn't realize she'd just handed me the only man in the family who actually wanted to win. Walter didn't want revenge for me. He wanted it for himself. She'd embarrassed his legacy. She'd embarrassed his grandson-in-law. So we got to work. By the time they came back, hungover from nostalgia and weak from the kind of guilt people try to pretend is maturity, we were ready. And let me tell you something. They weren't. When they walked through the door 3 days later, you'd think they were returning from some spiritual retreat. Laughing lightly, arms brushing, wearing matching smug little, we're just friends who reminisce about our past in bed, grins. They didn't even notice the faint scent of old scotch or the subtle rearrangement of furniture. That part was Walter. He said people underestimate how much you can learn by what they don't see. She barely glanced at me. Just tossed her keys into the bowl by the door like this was still her world. Hey, she said, casual as anything. How'd it go with Gramps? Gramps? Now it's Gramps? Walter didn't answer. He was sitting in his recliner like a stone statue, his back perfectly straight, his hands resting on the arms, his eyes locked on hers like a predator who hadn't eaten in days. Did you have a good talk? He asked, voice level but thick with buried artillery. She paused, but only for a second. We just caught up. Caught up. Yes. That's what you do with an ex who broke your nose in college, right? The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was surgical. Chad, bless his delusional little heart, tried to jump in with his faux charming voice. Well, okay. It's Thanksgiving, not an interrogation room. That's when I stood up and clicked the remote. The living room TV flared to life, but it wasn't ESPN. It was security footage. Crisp. 4K. Audio included. I had Walter to thank for that. He'd upgraded the house 2 years ago without telling anyone. Said it was in case the country ever turned. And there they were, on screen. My wife and Chad. In the parking lot behind O'Malley's bar. His hand tracing the small of her back. Her smile curled up like a hook catching something. Her voice, clear as day. I just needed to feel something again. They both went stiff, realizing that something was happening, but they didn't know what yet. You said you wanted me to experience what it's like to take care of others, I said, my voice flat. I did. I nodded toward Walter. He took care of me. You should have remembered who you left me with. She tried the tears. Oh, of course she did. I didn't mean for it to go that far, routine. The trembling lip. The reaching hand. But I was already gone. Not physically, I stood right there. But emotionally? That bridge had burned the moment she picked up a pen and wrote that note. What she didn't know was this. In those 3 days, Walter and I started making calls. Not to lawyers. To friends. She'd used my name to secure a business loan. Illegally. She'd put my name on rental applications she ghosted. We had bank statements, texts, a timeline. Chad? He was in deeper than he thought. He'd been using a corporate card from his Life Coach brand to fund their hotel trysts. The card belonged to a client. We had the receipts. Walter handed me a folder. Just before they came in. Inside, copies of every financial document she'd forged. Photos of her with Chad, timestamped, geotagged. A list of the creditors she'd been dodging with my credit. It was everything I needed to quietly pull the pin. You don't have to raise your voice, I told her. You already buried yourself loud enough. She opened her mouth, but Walter stood. Thanksgiving's over, he said, slowly walking past her. You've got leftovers in the fridge. That's all that's left of what you had. He paused at the door, turned back to Chad. And you? You should start running. Not because of me, because the IRS will move a lot faster. He didn't smile when he said it. And neither did I. I left her the house. Technically. But not before removing my name from the deed, transferring all utilities to her name, and making sure the mortgage company knew about the fraud. She got exactly what she asked for, the responsibility of taking care of things. I took Walter. We checked into a small rental off Highway 9. No drama. Just the peace of knowing everything she built on lies was about to crumble under the weight of her own choices. You ever notice how silence after betrayal isn't empty? It's heavy. It presses on the ribs, creeps under the skin, stares you down like a man who knows you better than you know yourself. That's what the house felt like the next morning. She hadn't called. Not once. Not to apologize. Not to scream. Not even to lie. Cowards are always loud until you hit them with consequences. They go real quiet then. Chad? Gone. Slithered out before dawn, probably back to his cave of vision boards and fake protein shakes. Walter and I, we were 3 towns over by then. In a short-term rental owned by one of his old poker buddies who apparently did more than just shuffle cards in his youth. The man had a network. And I mean network. If you're gonna burn down a house, make sure you've got a blueprint of the plumbing first, Walter said, pouring coffee like it was a war ration. And that morning, he handed me another folder. He'd pulled her business finances. Turns out, she'd been laundering money. Not cartel-level stuff, but shady enough. She'd been cycling payments between fake event clients and her cleaning company, pulling tax write-offs for work that never happened. And guess who she listed as co-owner on all her filings? That's right. Me. I wasn't just married to a cheater. I was financially handcuffed to a fraud in heels. I made the next move simple. I didn't blow up her phone. Didn't show up screaming like some desperate sitcom husband begging for dignity. I called the bank. I froze the accounts she opened in my name. I filed an affidavit removing my consent as partner from her business. Had the paperwork overnight and notarized. Then I called the Small Business Bureau with a quiet tip about tax irregularities. You know what the woman at the desk said? You're the 3rd tip we've gotten on her this quarter. Thank you for confirming what we suspected. The 3rd tip. She wasn't just sloppy, she was a walking red flag parade, and I'd been colorblind for too long. Walter chuckled when I told him. She thought she had you by the throat, he said. Turns out, she was handing you the rope. 2 days later, she texted. Not to apologize. Not to explain. Just this. You really want to do this? After everything? I didn't reply. Instead, I posted the footage. No, not online. I'm not that guy. I don't need likes. I need precision. I sent it privately to her parents, her siblings, her business sponsors. You know, all those people she paraded us in front of. The people who believed she was this graceful entrepreneur married to a sweet, quiet man who just didn't get it. I let them see who she really was. I didn't say a word. Just sent the video. A 2-minute clip. Her, leaning against Chad's car, lipstick smudged, talking about how tired she was of babysitting a husband who only exists to pay the bills. Let her do the talking. And like dominoes, the calls started coming in. Not to me, to her. Sponsors pulling out. Clients canceling. Family members asking questions she couldn't answer with a giggle and address. I sat back in that rental, watching it happen like a man who finally set his broken bones straight after years of limping. Walter raised his glass to me that night. To the long game, he said. To playing dead while they dig their own graves. And I clinked his glass. To never going back. The first domino had fallen. And the sound? It didn't echo through just her life. It tore through her identity. The woman who once couldn't order coffee without mentioning she was an entrepreneur now couldn't get her phone to stop ringing with cancellations. Her parents? They were the first to flinch. See, they were old-school country club types. Appearances mattered. Not morality, appearances. They didn't care that she cheated. They cared that people knew. She showed up at their front door, mascara smudged, voice cracking with forced innocence. Walter's old neighbor, who happened to work for a local courier service, snapped a photo, sent it to us with a simple caption. "The prodigal fraud returns." Her mother didn't even open the door, just shouted from behind the stained glass, "You made your bed, darling. Sleep in it alone." Meanwhile, Chad was spiraling. Turns out, his life coach business was built on a pyramid of half-truths and unpaid invoices. And one of Walter's many friends, this one a semi-retired IRS analyst, offered to take a look. He did more than look. He turned over stones so fast Chad couldn't keep up. 3 days later, Chad sent me a message. Not to apologize. Just to beg. I didn't know she'd go nuclear. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. Instead, I called the landlord of the wellness studio Chad ran out of. Posed as a loan collector, casually mentioned unpaid debts, tax liens, and proper zoning. By week's end, the building had a for lease sign. Back at the rental, Walter and I moved on to phase 2, the personal purge. See, she hadn't just betrayed me emotionally or financially, she'd compromised my future. My name was tied to her mess, her debt, her drama. Not anymore. I started unraveling it, thread by thread. Credit? Froze and rebuilt. Bank accounts? Transferred and replaced. Joint assets? Sold or liquidated. The proceeds sent to a trust one controlled. Utilities? All rerouted. Let her figure out why the water stopped during her next bath. I even called our internet provider and downgraded the plan to essential use only. Because poetic justice is watching a woman who lives online get booted from her own Wi-Fi. Then came the mail. Literal mountains of it. Debt collectors, charity newsletters, invoices from vendors who suddenly couldn't reach her. And in that stack, a certified letter addressed to me. Inside, a formal notice of audit from the State Revenue Department. Walter read it over my shoulder. She's got a month to produce those cleaning contracts. Otherwise, prison's not off the table. He didn't smile when he said it. Neither did I. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. About clearing my name. About showing my daughter, if I ever have one, that a man doesn't tolerate being broken by the people who were supposed to love him. That night, she called. Blocked number. I answered. "Why are you doing this?" She whispered. Her voice wasn't angry, it was wounded, like I'd betrayed her. I didn't say anything at first. Just listened to the breath of a woman who finally realized the ground under her stilettos was gone. Then I said, "I'm doing what you asked, remember? You told me to learn what it's like to take care of others. So I did. I took care of myself." Funny thing about betrayals, they don't just destroy trust. They strip identity. She thought she'd walk away from our marriage with her head high, maybe even a little proud, brave enough to follow her heart, she'd say. Instead, she couldn't walk 5 steps in town without feeling eyes on her back and whispers in her wake. Because I made damn sure the truth spread the way she used to spread lies, fast and polished. You remember that event cleaning business she used as a front for her fraud? Gone. The social club gigs? Pulled. Corporate clients? Quietly blacklisted her. Even her little podcast about women who build empires got axed. The host texted me to say she was sorry and that they can't be associated with drama right now. Oh, now we care about reputations? Meanwhile, I'd started rebuilding my life. Not out of revenge, but clarity. I moved into a modest condo by the lake. Clean walls, simple furniture, no ghosts. Walter visited often. He brought cigars. And silence. The kind of silence that doesn't ask questions. It just understands. But then she showed up. Of course she did. One afternoon, late December. Cold air. Light snow. I came back from a hardware store run, arms full of caulk, screws, and a replacement handle for a drawer she'd ripped off during one of her tantrums a year ago. She was sitting on the steps. No makeup. No theatrics. Just that same note in her hand. Yeah, the note. The one she left me on Thanksgiving. "I wanted to talk," she said, standing as I approached. "Just talk." I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw it. The woman who once ran rooms with her laughter now couldn't look me in the eye for more than 3 seconds. "You didn't come to apologize," I said. "You came to explain." She nodded, tears welling up like she thought they might still work on me. "I made mistakes," she whispered. "No," I corrected her. "You made choices." That hit harder than anything else I could have said. She sat back down. "I miss how simple it was." "You miss not being exposed," I replied. "You miss being the one holding the mirror, not the one being shown to herself. Then came her real ask. Can we ever? I didn't let her finish. No, not out of anger. Out of principle. Because if you set fire to someone's home, you don't get to ask if you can warm your hands by the ashes. She stood, nodded once, and walked away. No drama. No parting words. Just defeat. That night, Walter poured us 2 drinks. She came by, I said. He didn't react. Did you leave a door open? No, I said. I just closed the last one. He raised his glass. Then here's to closure, he said. We clinked. Quiet. Simple. Final. I went to bed that night with no anger. No knots in my gut. Just peace. The kind you don't buy or beg for. The kind you earn after walking through fire without burning down who you are. The thing about a man who's lost everything, really lost it, not just the couch and the ring, is that when he stands back up, he doesn't need anyone's permission anymore. That's where I was now. Clean slate. Burned bridge behind me. And every step forward felt like I was finally walking on my own terms. Walter noticed it before I did. He caught me smiling at the hardware store, just smiling. You're starting to look like a man again, he said. Not a husband trying to pass for one. I didn't respond, just chuckled. Because he was right. Her name stopped coming up. Not in town. Not online. Not in court, because I never had to take her to court. She ruined herself. The audit stuck. She was slapped with a $70,000 penalty for fraud, tax evasion, and misfiling under a fake LLC. The best part? She had to sell her car to pay part of it. The same car she once bragged about buying without needing my help. Turns out, it was in my name. I signed the release with a coffee in one hand and a smile in the other. I picked up woodworking again, an old hobby from before I got buried in marriage and mortgages. Walter had a shed, dusty, untouched, full of tools older than both of us combined. It's all yours, he said. Just don't kill yourself with the belt sander. Every afternoon, I go out there and build. Not furniture focus. Tables, chairs, shelves. Each piece stronger than the last. Each one made from what I picked out myself. There was something holy in it. Measured cuts. Smooth grain. The honesty of craft. Wood doesn't lie to you. It doesn't pretend to be something it's not. One night, I got a call. Not from her. From Chad. Blocked number. But I knew his voice, oily and cracked from stress. Man, I'm just trying to clean up my life, you know? I didn't mean for it to go down like that. I didn't say anything. They're saying I might lose my license. The tax stuff. It's bad. I got evicted. I'm crashing on my sister's couch. Still, I said nothing. He finally broke. You set me up, didn't you? And that was when I spoke. No, Chad. You just thought no one was watching while you set yourself on fire. I just made sure you burned alone. Click. Walter laughed for 5 solid minutes when I told him. You're colder than I thought, he said, shaking his head. Nah, I said. I'm just done being warm for people who don't bring the fire. And here's the kicker. I never went after her publicly. I didn't destroy her online. I didn't send screenshots to her new boyfriend when she got desperate again. I didn't have to. The world is full of people just waiting to step on someone's neck. But me? I just stepped out of the way and watched her fall. I started selling my woodwork locally. Farmers markets. Word of mouth. And people asked, how'd you learn to do this? How'd you get so precise with your hands? I just smiled. Because they didn't know the hands that built these tables were the same ones that pulled back from the edge. The same hands that once held a wedding ring and now held truth. It was spring when she came back. That kind of early warmth in the air, just enough to lie to you, make you think winter's done. But underneath, the chill still lingers. Kind of poetic, actually. I was outside, sanding down a reclaimed oak slab for a custom desk order. Dust in the air. Music low. My sleeves rolled up, and the sun finally doing me a favor. That's when I heard the tires on gravel. I didn't look up right away, but I knew the sound. That soft crunch of a tired car trying to pretend it still belongs in someone's life. She stepped out of a different vehicle. Not the white Lexus anymore. She must have sold that to plug her audit hole. This one was older. Beige. Dented in the side. She looked different. Not worse, just undone. The makeup was gone. Hair pulled back like she was trying to look younger, humbler. Clothes basic. Safe. Not a single accessory to flex. She stood there like she didn't know if she should speak first. So I made it easy for her. You're late, I said. She blinked. Late for what? The part where you pretend it was all a misunderstanding. She gave a tight, nervous laugh. I'm not here to pretend. Then why are you here? She swallowed, looked around like she was trying to anchor herself to something that didn't exist anymore. I heard about the woodwork. Your stuff's beautiful. You didn't come to compliment furniture. She nodded slowly. I came because I wanted to say thank you. Now that stopped me. I set the sander down. Thank you. For not destroying me. You could have. I know that now. I didn't answer. Just wiped my hands with a rag, the kind of silence that hurts to sit in. Everyone else in my life disappeared. Family, clients, even Chad. He ghosted me. Turns out his new vision doesn't include someone with legal baggage. That made me smile. Not out of joy. Just balance. So this is what rock bottom looks like? I asked. No, she said. Rock bottom was the moment I realized you were never coming back. I turned to face her fully then. You left yourself. I just stayed gone. And then she dropped it. I've been going to therapy. I'm trying to understand why I sabotaged everything. She hesitated. Why I didn't see what I had. I let her say it. Let her speak her truth, because I already had mine. Months ago. In that shed. In the sawdust. In the quiet mornings where peace came without permission. She finished with a question. Of course she did. Is there any part of you that could, ever? No. She blinked. No chance. No interest. It wasn't cruel. It was honest. I'm not angry anymore, I added. And that's why this ends right here. Because I earned this version of myself without you. She nodded, tears finally breaking. But she didn't fall apart. And I respected that. It was the first real thing I'd seen from her in years. Take care of yourself, I said, stepping past her to put away my tools. I'm trying, she whispered. Good. Just do it somewhere else. She left. Quietly. No storm. No drama. Just a hollow queen retreating from a castle she never built. That night, Walter lit a cigar. She came by, he asked without looking up. Yeah. She say anything stupid? Just goodbye. He nodded once. Closure. Peace, I corrected him. It's wild how still life gets when the drama's gone. No late-night accusations. No wondering where she is. No lies dressed up as weekend retreats or girls' night. Just mornings. Coffee. And work. And the hum of the lathe in Walter's shed. That shop? It became my sanctuary. And not just because of the tools. Because for the first time in years, everything I touched stayed the way I left it. No shifting, no second-guessing, no sabotage. The peace wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself. It just was like it had been waiting patiently for me to stop trying to earn someone else's love. I started getting orders. Real ones. From a boutique store in town. A lawyer who wanted a handcrafted desk for his new office. A young couple who said, your chairs feel honest. Honest. That one stuck with me. Because that's what I became. Not just single. Not just free. Honest. Not performative. Not overly masculine. Just a man who survived betrayal without becoming bitter. A man who didn't torch the world just because one woman lit a match. Walter was quieter these days. He stopped bringing up the past. Stopped making jokes about her. Because he could see it. I was past it. I didn't need to gloat anymore. I didn't need the wind rubbed in. Because I was the wind. One night, we sat on the back porch. No whiskey. No revenge plan. Just the sound of wind and a fire pit crackling like it had nothing to prove. You're different now, Walter said. Better. No, he said, shaking his head. Just whole. That's rare. Then came the offer. A local college professor reached out. Said he'd seen my work. Asked if I consider teaching a weekend course on craftsmanship. I almost laughed. Me? Teaching? But I said yes. And standing there, walking young men through the grain of oak, through patience and care and doing things right the first time, it hit me. This was what she tried to take. Not just my pride, but my purpose. And she failed. I caught wind that she moved 2 towns over. Renting. Working part-time. Trying to claw her way back. Let her. Let her rebuild her life brick by brick. The same way I rebuilt mine. Only now without shortcuts or a husband to blame when it all falls apart again. I wish her no harm. But I wish her distance. Because I've got a waiting list now. Not for lovers. Not for vengeance. For clients. For people who want things built right. They say heartbreak hardens a man. Maybe. But me? It just refined me. Took the boy who wanted to please, and forged the man who doesn't beg to be chosen.